again.
Yoga consists in the intentional stopping of the spontaneous activity of the mind stuff, chitta. C-I-T-T-A is mind stuff. Well, now what is chitta? Chitta is a very old Hindu, part of the Hindu epistemological theory. Chitta is always in motion, and it is this almost fluid-like ether within the brain that takes on the forms of everything that is imposed upon it from the outer world. And so the mind stuff, when external forms are, when the chitta is not taking the shape of the external forms in waking consciousness, in sleep, it is active through dreams. It's the substance that's constantly active and it's constantly restless. And so the idea is you want to quell that, you want to stop that while you're awake. And the analogy is to a rippling river, and you're trying to still the waters of the river until they don't move, and you can see straight down into the bottom. Well, now what is it that you see when the waters of the mind have been so calm that you can look straight down in? Well, what you see is the Purusha, or Jiva, as it's also translated, the white radiance of the soul that is the dweller within. And so that's what you're trying to get to in the classical yogic tradition. The word yoga comes from the root yuj, Y-U-G, Y-U-J rather, meaning to yoke. So we are yoking consciousness back to consciousness. We're yoking the consciousness of the brain back to the body, which was there long before the brain began to think about anything. So as the Kundalini serpent begins to awaken, the first center here is called Muladhara. Muladhara means the root support. We have the 4 petals, and on each one of them is a Sanskrit symbol called a yam. And we have the element earth is symbolized in this square. So earth is the heaviest of the elements, but this chakra is supposed to be located between the genitals and the anus. And so it's at the bottom, and the earth has a distinct association with feces. This is the bottom, the root support of the body, but it's also the root support of the universe. We have here this white elephant who is supporting the whole system. The Hindus have a myth about elephants. Elephants, they say, were originally clouds. They could fly around and take on forms. And one day, a bunch of them, a flock of elephants, flew down and landed on a branch above a yogi who was teaching to his students. And their weight broke off the branch and killed a bunch of his students. And they flew off twittering, and so he cursed them, and that's why now they walk the earth and can no longer change form because of the yogi's curse. So the elephant is the root support here at the bottom of the whole system. And we have here the female anatomy represented by the downward pointing triangle, and the phallus here, what's called the lingam, and you can barely make it out, but the little white serpent is coiled around it 3.5 times. And so we have the lingam and yoni. The two symbols for the male and female are locked together, and the state of consciousness here is total spiritual slumbering. Most people go through life like this all the time. There is no awakening within them. And the worldview here is of a crass materialism. There is simply an inertial principle to stay as you are. And the world has no spiritual resonance from this level of consciousness. It just is. Everything is self-evident. Now the God, you can barely make him out here, the God that's associated with this level is Brahma. He sits on this lotus. The lotus actually grows from the navel of Vishnu. Brahma has 4 faces representing the light of consciousness thrown out into the 4 directions. And he has his little spouse, his Shakti, with him here, and you can barely make her out. So there's that God associated with that center. Now, as the serpent rises up the spinal column, the Sushumna, she goes to the second center. This is called Svadhisthana, which means her favorite resort, and this is associated with the genitals, the second center.
Can you spell that second center?
Svadhisthana, S-V-A-D-I-S-T-H-A-N-A.
What kind of resort?
Her favorite resort is the translation. The energy here is sexual. And Ramakrishna said, when I activated this center within myself, all I could think about was sex. No matter what thought I had, sex would come up. I would see sex in everything, sexual symbolism everywhere. This is Freudian psychology. This is that level. That's as high as Freud gets. And here we have a crescent moon with a sea monster in it. So we have the association here is of the element water now. And it's my guess that the anatomy behind this is referring to the water in urine, the menstrual flow, the amniotic fluid, and so forth. Everything that is associated with the watery genital regions here. The god that is associated with this is Vishnu. And Vishnu is the god who, as we'll see in a moment, who is dreaming the entire universe. We are products of the dreaming mind of Vishnu. And his little spouse is there with him. Now, as we move up, you'll notice that there will be more and more lotus petals. This indicates that consciousness is unfolding more and more potentiality as we rise up. So we go up to the level of the abdomen now, the belly. And this is Manipura, which means the city of the shining jewel. Mani as in Om Mani Padme Hum, the jewel in the lotus. So we have the city of the shining jewel, and the element now is fire. This is the fire of the intestines that cooks the food. That's the physiological correlate. We have a little ram here who is associated with the fire god Agni. And the deity associated with this level of consciousness is Shiva. This is the will to power. This is the psychology of Adler and Nietzsche. This is the will toward power over others, the constant assertion of power, the desire for power, the lust for power.
On all these little things, they made a big deal out of this article. They said there's always their consort with them.
Yes.
Why is that?
The consort is the energy. She is always the personification of Shakti. She is the energy that animates the god. That's where he draws his life, is from her. And this neat little, throw this one up right here. It's one of my favorite Hindu works of art. Here's the Hindu cosmology. It's worth going into this briefly. Here is Vishnu, right here, and he's asleep on the cosmic serpent. And these are all serpents, Ananta, meaning endless. These are milk white serpents. And his Shakti is right here, and she's rubbing his foot. That is the stimulation of his dream. That is the life energy, Shakti, that is stimulating his dream. And his dream is manifested by Brahma, who is sitting on the lotus here, that should be connected to the navel. Normally it is connected with his navel. And this is the manifestation of consciousness rising up out of the body. The universe rises up out of the watery abyss in all the ancient myths, just as in the morning we wake up and the island of consciousness arises out of the dark sea of the body. Heinrich Zimmer says in that essay that the body is the physicalization of the unconscious. This is it, right here. This is the unconscious. And his four heads focus out into the four directions. And then Shiva is over here riding on the white bull. His animal is the bull. And yes?
I was just going to say another word about the consort.
Yes.
The consort is, when they talk about the consort, they're bringing up the idea of devotion, bhakti, which is, there's a big thing about devotion in Hindu mythology. So, and it's all about being devoted to whatever you're doing, to your guru or everything. So the consort there's a principle of devotion in this love with Shakti and Shiva. So every time you see consort, there's a devotion principle.
That's love energy.
Well, yeah, and then you apply it to every level that you have understanding.
And the wife is so devoted to the husband that she traditionally would throw herself on the funeral pyre when the husband would die. And Zimmer.
Does it for me. I lived in.
Right. Well, yes, absolutely. But as you read Zimmer's essay there, he does a very brilliant thing because he starts out in the first few paragraphs by giving you very concrete rituals that relate to what myths have to do with living life